All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you once again with this video titled Laborious Work, the Unappreciated Men in Society. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Okay, well, what am I going into when I mention this laborious work and how these particular men are unappreciated in society? Okay, well, it was a while back I made a video about high value men, okay, or what truly defines a high value man, biblically speaking, okay? And you got to understand in this world, okay, that men who are considered high value is usually a certain dollar tag attached to it, so to speak, okay? The amount of money that he makes, right? He has to be making at least, 6 figures or so per year to even begin to be considered a high value man in this society, okay? But what we fail to realize a lot of times is, the people or the men who actually keep this society running, okay, are who we call the blue collar workers, okay? The men who actually work more with their hands, okay? That's the laborious work that I'm talking about, the so-called blue collar workers, okay? And, this is not to disrespect any brothers who may be in a field where they're more white collar workers, okay? They may be in corporate America or something like that, this is not to disrespect them, but the people who are ignored or looked more down upon are the quote unquote blue collar workers, right? And that's just dealing with men who are in that particular field in general, okay? But if you are an Israelite man that's in the field of blue collar work, okay, that's pretty much a double whammy, okay? You look down upon for simply being an Israelite, okay, being an Israelite man, and then, the type of work you do, it's not the most prestigious work, okay? It's not the most glamorous jobs that you have, okay? So, you kind of look down upon, you kind of ignored, but in reality, brothers like that, work more with their hands, doing the blue collar work, they're the ones that, pretty much have society on their backs. Okay, without these men, society wouldn't be running. Okay. And what I also want to get into is the unspoken sacrifice that these particular men have to make. And I'm talking about Israelite men that's in these fields, okay? Especially you Israelite men that's in the truth, okay? There's an unspoken sacrifice that you pretty much have to make that's not spoken about enough, okay? So, with that being said, let's get to the scriptures and let me explain what I'm talking about, okay? So starting off, this is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 38, and starting at verse 24. And it reads, "The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise." So we see here that wisdom comes through leisure time, through having that time on your hands to actually study. Okay, that's where you become more wise. You gain more wisdom, okay, when you have that time on your hands, right? But like I said before, you have brothers that's quote unquote blue collar workers, brothers that, work more with their hands, and those fields are very time consuming, okay? They don't have the time to actually study the way that they want to actually gain more wisdom, okay? And that's that unspoken sacrifice that a lot of brothers in the truth have to make, okay? So let's read that again. It says, the wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure, and he that hath little business shall become wise. Okay, verse 25. How can he get wisdom that holdeth the plow, and that glorieth in the goad, which is an instrument used to drive cattle, okay, that driveth oxen, so you see what I mean, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks, right? So again, if this particular person is so caught up in their work, they don't have the leisure time to gain more wisdom, okay? So now let's move forward to the next verse. This is verse 26, and it reads, he giveth his mind to make furrows, and is diligent to give the kine fodder. Okay, now kine is pretty much dealing with cattle, like cows and oxen and things of that nature. And fodder is pretty much like the hay that you would feed that particular cattle. Okay. Now, when you go to the beginning of that verse, furrows, okay? Furrows, if you actually ever looked at like a farm, okay, and you see like the straight lines that's made where they actually plant the seeds or things of that nature, even when you're dealing with irrigation, okay, that's what furrows are, okay? Actually, I'm going to show a video about what that looks like, what furrows are. Okay, so let's get to it. Okay, so as we see here, this is what the scriptures is talking about when it's talking about furrows. Okay, you see those straight lines? Okay, I know a lot of y'all are probably, have probably thought, when you look at a farm, how do they get these plants and these different fruits and vegetables and perfect lines and things of that nature? Well, that's what the scriptures is talking about when it's going into furrows, okay? When that particular verse talks about the man that gives his mind to furrows, okay? This is what the scriptures is talking about, okay? So now moving forward, this is verse 27, and it reads, so every carpenter and workmaster that laboreth night and day, and they that cut and grave seals, and are diligent to make great variety, and give themselves to counterfeit imagery, and watch to finish a work. Okay, so again, now we're going into carpentry. Okay, the homes you live in. Okay, the houses, the apartments. Different infrastructures. Okay. This is going into carpentry, and workmastery. All right. Here's an example of carpentry right here. As we see, the men are putting together a home. Okay. This is going into carpentry. Okay. And this is what the scriptures is talking about. Okay. It's very time consuming performing this work and actually, going through the apprenticeship to learn this particular skill, okay, even that takes years, okay, to become, a good carpenter, to be able to, build people's homes and different infrastructures, right? So now, moving forward, this is verse 28, and it reads, the smith also sitting by the anvil, and considering the ironwork, the vapor of the fire wasteth his flesh, and he fighteth with the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvil is ever in his ears, and his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh. He setteth his mind to finish his work, and watcheth to polish it perfectly. Okay? So, of course, this is talking about a blacksmith, the person that, fashions different, iron material and things of that nature. Okay. The scripture talks about how the fire wasted away his flesh, because in order to be able to bend those particular iron and metals, you have to first heat it to a very, very high temperature. Okay. Then it talks about how the hammering The hammer and the anvil and the sound of the anvil is ever in his ears, okay? Because you have to take the hammer and fashion the metal and the iron to the particular shape that you want it, okay? So again, this is something that's very time consuming, okay? And it takes away from, your opportunity to actually gain more wisdom, okay? For brothers that may be in this field of endeavor, okay? Now here's an example of a blacksmith in action, okay? Performing his duty. And like I said, you have to heat that particular iron to a very, very high temperature. Then you the noise of the hammer and the anvil. You see how he was hammering it, okay? In order to fashion it to, the particular shape that he wants it. Okay, look at that. He wouldn't be able to bend the iron if he didn't heat it like that. Okay? But anyway, moving on. This is verse 29, and it reads, "So doth the potter sitting at his work and turning the wheel about his feet, who is always carefully set at his work, and maketh all his work by number." Okay, verse 30. "He fashioned the clay with his arm, and boweth down his strength before his feet. He applieth himself to lead it over, and he is diligent to make clean the furnace." Okay, so again, this is going into pottery, okay, which is something that's also very time consuming, okay? All of this is going into blue collar work, okay? Let's get an example of the potter, okay, performing his task. And as we're about to see, he's about to fashion this piece of clay into a pot, okay? He's pretty much making it turn with his feet. And you see how he's putting his strength down on the clay, as the scriptures said, okay? In order to fashion it the way that he wants, okay? But what this is all going into is pretty much, the people who keep the society running, okay? My point is they don't really get the recognition that they really deserve. And also, there's an unspoken sacrifice that they have to make as far as wisdom goes, okay? They don't really have the same amount of time to actually study and gain more wisdom, as we've already read, okay? But anyway, moving forward, this is verse 31, and it reads, "All these trust to their hands, and everyone is wise in his work." Okay, most of these jobs, like I said, you have to go through what's known as an apprenticeship, okay? That's why they're wise in their work. They put in the time to learn their trade, okay? Verse 32, "Without these cannot a city be inhabited, and they shall not dwell where they will, nor go up and down." Okay, now look at verse 32, the beginning of verse 32. It says, "Without these cannot a city be inhabited." That's why I said the brothers that's in this particular field, okay, that's considered blue collar work, okay, men that work more with their hands, okay, they are the ones that keep society running, okay, for the most part, okay. It's brothers like that keep the society going, okay? The scriptures say it clearly right here. "Without these cannot a city be inhabited." Okay? But in this society, okay, these are not the men that's quote unquote considered high value. Okay? Now we know again from a biblical vantage point what a truly high value man is, but when you just pretty much dealing from a two-dimensional perspective, okay, these men, these blue-collar men, are not considered high value. They're really not valued that much at all, okay? But these are the men that actually keep society running. And I know a lot of you brothers, you Israelite men, are in these fields, okay? And and you're not getting the recognition that you should be getting, especially you brothers in the truth. Because like I said before, there's an unspoken sacrifice that you have to make, okay? You could be putting more time into studying and gaining more wisdom to be able to, better feed the sheep. But here again, this society being able to run also depends upon you and the work that you do, okay? But anyway, moving forward, this is verse 33, and it reads, "They shall not be sought for in public council, nor sit high in the congregation. They shall not sit on the judge's seat, nor understand the sentence of judgment. They cannot declare justice and judgment, and they shall not be found where parables are spoken." Why is that? Because they don't have the leisure time to actually study and gain more wisdom. So because of that, they're not going to be, sitting, in these particular seats of judgment, okay? They don't have the more prestigious, titles, so to speak, okay? Because of the type of work that they do. But they should not be undervalued, because if it wasn't for them, society wouldn't be able to run, okay? And what's really just so funny to me? When you hear women out there that's still in the world, okay, and they like to talk about how, they don't need a man, okay? They have this false notion of independence, and they say, women don't need men, okay? But as we read the scriptures clearly say that without these, talking about these particular blue-collar men, without these cannot a city be inhabited, okay? So the very men that these women say that they don't need, okay, they keep society running, okay? They build the houses that these women live in, okay? They do the plumbing that these women need, the electricity, okay? The roads that these women drive on to get to their jobs. Men build these roads, the bridges, the buildings of the jobs that they go to, okay? I could go on and on and on, okay? Now, you do have a small handful of women that's in these fields of endeavor, but for the most part, it's men, okay? Bar none, okay? So this is verse 34, and it reads, "But they will maintain the state of the world, and all their desire is in the work of their craft." Okay? Now, here again, okay, I hate to have to do this, but I'm going to bring it back to my last point with the women, okay? A lot of times, and this is really feminist women, okay? I know a lot of times you may have heard feminist women say, that men act like the world revolves around them, okay? Well, I'm reading this verse, madam, and it says, "But they will maintain the state of the world." So, in a sense, the world kind of does revolve around these men, okay? But anyway, I just thought I should point that out. But again, the end of the verse says what? "And all their desire is in the work of their craft." Okay, so they're dedicated in their work. Okay. Now, this particular verse is actually the end of that chapter. And when you go into the next chapter, which is chapter 39, it actually goes into talking about the man that actually does have this particular wisdom, okay? This particular man pretty much had the leisure time, okay? And he gave himself over to gaining wisdom, okay? Learning about deep parables and things of this nature. And when you read that chapter, how, they pretty much were seated amongst great men because of the wisdom and the wise sentences that they would speak. it's pretty much opposite of the man that we read in chapter 38. Okay, so that's what chapter 39 actually goes into, the beginning of chapter 39. Okay, so like I said before, or like the scripture said, wisdom comes by the opportunity of leisure. Okay, you have to have the leisure time to actually study. Okay, so now with that in mind, let's get our next verse. Okay, so moving forward, this is 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 15, and it reads, "Study to show thyself approved unto God." Now watch this. "A workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." Okay, so the beginning of the verse says what? Study to show thyself approved unto God. So one of the ways we show ourselves approved to God is by studying. Okay, but in order to study, what do you need? You need leisure time. Okay, you need that leisure time in order to be able to study, in order to be able to show yourself approved unto God. Okay, and like I said before, this is the unspoken sacrifice that brothers have to make. Okay, you have to juggle that, that blue. If you're a brother that's in the truth and you're in that particular field, that blue collar work, you have to juggle your work along with actually, studying. So, you can feed yourself as well, and then you'll be better able to feed the flock. Okay, so this is a sacrifice that a lot of brothers have to make, but it's not spoken about a lot. Okay, so the verse goes on to say what? A workman that needed not to be ashamed. Okay, it says a workman. Okay, so what does that let us know? It lets us know that you also have to labor in this word as well. Okay, the same way you labor at your job, guess what? You have to labor in this word as well. Okay, that's part of your works. Okay, that shows you have faith in Yahweh. Okay, it's also a part of, again, showing yourself approved unto God. Okay, you have to labor in this word and, gain that wisdom. Okay, you have to study. All right, so don't frown upon this particular sacrifice that you have to make. Okay, because, as men of the Lord, women have to make sacrifices too. But, this video is more so about the brothers right now. We're called to make, this particular sacrifice unto Yahweh. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is the book of Romans, chapter 12 and verse 1. And it reads, "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service." Okay, so the middle of the verse says what? That you present your bodies a living sacrifice. Okay, so again, we know what this living sacrifice is. Okay, now we know part of it is the trials and tribulations that you have to go through in this world. Okay, while you're in this truth. All right, but another part of this living sacrifice is what? Having to go to work every day, okay, to provide for your family, being subject to payments. Okay, that's that living sacrifice as well. Having to juggle your job and the truth. Okay, that's that living sacrifice that I'm talking about in this particular video. Okay, and we have to make this sacrifice every single day. All right, let's take a look at this. This is the book of Luke, chapter 9 and verse 23. And it reads, "And he said to them all, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." Okay, that's why I said you have to make this sacrifice daily, okay? Whatever trials and tribulations you're going through in your life, okay? Along with working to provide for your families, okay? Along with what? Actually doing the work of the Lord, which is what's most important. You have to juggle all of that. That's a part of that living sacrifice. That's a part of you taking up your cross daily and following Yahweh Shai. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 7 and verse 15. And it reads, "Hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High hath ordained." Okay, now we see here, it says, hate not laborious work. Okay, and everything that we read about in Sirach chapter 38 was laborious work. Okay, that blue collar work. Okay, even some of it was husbandry. Okay, but this, is going into laborious work. Okay, that blue collar work that is very time consuming. Okay, the type of work that brothers do that cause them not to have the leisure time to study the way that they want to. Okay, you're not supposed to hate that type of work, because as the end of the verse says, it says, which the Most High hath ordained. Okay, the Most High ordained this type of work. Now, when did the Most High ordain laborious work? Okay, to get our answer, let's go to 2nd Esdras and let's see. All right, so this is 2nd Esdras chapter 7, starting at verse 10, and it reads, "And I said, It is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, Even so also is Israel's portion." Verse 11, "Because for their sakes," talking about Israel, "I made the world." So Yahweh made the world for Israel's sake. Okay, so moving on, it says, "And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done." Okay, this is when laborious work was ordained. Okay, because if you know anything about Adam, Adam was born in paradise. Okay, Adam didn't really have to work for anything. He was born in paradise. Okay, he was Lord of all God's creatures. Okay, everything, the people, the animals, all existing, everything. Adam was the Lord of all of God's creatures. So he didn't have to do laborious work. But when he transgressed the statutes of Yahweh, then was decreed that now is done, meaning now man is not born in paradise anymore. Okay, you have to labor to get there in more ways than one. All right, so now let's take a look at what exactly was said to Adam. Okay, let's go to the book of Genesis and take a look. All right, so this is Genesis chapter 3 and verse 19, and it reads, "And the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return." Okay, so the beginning of the verse says what? "In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread," meaning what? Now you got to work and do, you have to do laborious work for a living. Okay, everything is not just going to be handed to you anymore. Okay, you're not going to be born in paradise, so to speak, dealing with God's chosen people, so to speak. Okay, you're going to have to do laborious work in order to live, to have a roof over your head, to put food in your stomach, to put clothes on your back, things of that nature. Okay, so that's what that's going into. All right, but anyway, I think this is actually a good place to bring this video to a close. And again, the title of this video is Laborious Work, the Unappreciated Men in society. Okay. And of course, I went over the unspoken sacrifice, or at least it's not spoken of enough. Okay. That particular sacrifice that, these particular men have to make. Okay. Having to juggle, doing the work of the Lord, with, the jobs that they have that pretty much keep society running. Okay. But, I commend, brothers like that, you don't really hear them complaining about it. Okay. They don't really complain at all. They take it in stride. Right. But, anyway, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ruach Kodash. I want to thank all you brothers and sisters for tuning in. And until next time, Shalom, family.